I never thought that Family Guy would thrive in internet culture. There was a time where seeing clips of the show while scrolling through shorts and TikTok was constant. So after a while, it made me curious enough to check out the latest season. The one thing I noticed in the modern version of Family Guy is their acknowledgement of how the internet has impacted our day-to-day lives. The one thing about shows that have been on for a very long time is that they need to adapt in order to feel fresh. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't.
You're free now. Go!
For Family Guy, I believe the topic of internet culture thrived in their stories. And here are a few examples that show how they utilized it. We've seen a lot of social media platforms used to feature various people that show off their assets to the internet that can build a following online. Many people were able to get plenty of attention by acquiring likes from various posts. As human beings, we love to get that certain attention that equates to some sort of praise. Likes are the easiest way to view that there are those that enjoy your posts and are a great way to gain dopamine as a content creator. Though this small gesture of attention can easily turn into a contest for peers to the point where it can break a relationship and even worse, their personality. We get a preview of that in the episode, The Stowaway. The B-plot for this episode focuses on Lois and her aspirations of taking the record for the most likes on Instagram in her neighborhood after Bonnie took it with her latest post. She gets that opportunity to do that when she had Peter overbid for a Vermont trip, as she views the state as an Instagram goldmine. This emphasizes the lengths some people are willing to go to have the largest amount of likes on social media. Even from viewing the picture Bonnie has made, you can see why it has a good amount of likes, as it checks many of the social standards of female beauty and luxury. With the fact that she has the perfect body and is very flexible, having an excellent choice of background as she takes this photo on the pier with a very beautiful background of the beach, and also a nice little description that has a small pun. This is an example of a lot of Instagram models that thrive on this kind of post. So the aspirations of wanting to achieve that and getting that amount of attention can become front and center for those obsessed with it. So there are those that are willing to make massive financial decisions in order to get some sort of clout. It's a high risk, high reward type of scenario that can make or break an individual. That was something that Lois fell into. Now, it's been a very long time since I have watched the series, but it does seem like Lois has a one-sided rivalry with Bonnie. Bonnie is seen as a favorite in the neighborhood, and there's a clear sense of jealousy Lois has with her popularity. So going after that record can be seen as a one-up on her for Lois. Lois shows her obsessiveness over gaining more likes. She's the kind of person that thinks everything can be used against her online status. She brings up how it seems like Bonnie is always posting right after her, and believes how it's cutting off the attention she could have with her own posts. While it can be a factor, it's definitely not the biggest by a long shot. There are multiple things that could come into play when discussing the lack of traction on a post. Comparing yourself with someone else is generally seen as a bad thing to do because those you compare yourself to may not even be in the same stage as you as a content creator in status or the type of content you create. Doing that sort of thing makes a person very depressed about what they have currently and can make a person more prone to quit or make content that doesn't seem genuine. Not to mention how they feel it is more important that they level up their Instagram game than the safety of their youngest child. Trying to find the perfect post could lead to certain risks as well, which Lois learned the hard way when an edge of a cliff gave out on her when she tried to take the perfect photo. Even in an injured state, she felt it was worth it since the picture of her injury was enough to finally beat Bonnie's record. That's definitely not a healthy thing to promote whatsoever, but it makes sense because of it being the B-plot. And it emphasizes the mindset of those desperate to be on top of the social media leaderboard. Let's dive into the topic of celebrities and the diehards that accumulated over the years as they rise. Parasocial relationships have been one of the biggest issues on the internet as a whole. It is a very unhealthy relationship to have, and it can happen very easily if the content the individual is making has touched you on a personal level, or you can relate to the personality being shown on screen.
Thanks for
Roses
$5.
are red, violets are twisted. Bend over, Pokey, you're about to get fisted. Love you, babe.
What makes the situation worse is the current stars in their respective fields can be very emotional and could end up using their status to attack another individual. Stan culture is a hive mind mentality. So anything a celebrity would say to do, stans will be willing to do it with no hesitation. It feels very cult-like, and those who are the target of these actions end up changing their lives for the worst. Family Guy introduced how this can be in practice in the episode Get Stewie. Stewie expresses his excitement for a TikTok musical star named Meeber, and we quickly learn that Stewie is a stan of this star as he watched her growing up in the industry. It's so bad to the point where he even got a tattoo of her name on his crotch. It's very uncomfortable to see. And speaking of, we see more cringy and embarrassing things Stewie is willing to do. From doing suggestive TikTok dances, to taking every single advice to heart, not to mention that he says he is a part of Meeber's marionettes, something she calls her dedicated fanbase. We've seen many celebrities that use these cute little pet names for their fans. Think of Taylor Swift and her Swifties, or Garo with his Wigglies. Ugh. It feels like an extremely cult-like following when we see fans participate in this sort of fashion, as it ties into how parasocial relationships can be dangerous for all involved when fans take everything an individual says like gospel. This could potentially cause a person to easily manipulate thousands of people to do their bidding, which is something Stewie had to learn the hard way.
What?
Uh-oh. What? She thought my post was making fun of her. She put me on blast.
This is one of those situations where any mistake online could easily lead to a dumpster fire. Stewie's misunderstood tweet caused him to get cancelled by the stans, as they were quick to report his account and have it suspended. It was something Meeber took way out of proportion by not only responding to Stewie's tweet, but also putting it on blast and placing it on a Titantron. This is some peak level pettiness and abuse that was not called for. It forces Stewie to try to clear the air, but it barely amounts to any success. He becomes very isolated by many who knew him before the fiasco, and it did affect Stewie mentally. We also see how bystanders that are related to those involved would rather stay silent on the matter than show any leeway to a certain side. That small joke with Brian and Stewie shows what a lot of people with somewhat of a following do when any sort of drama arises. Most tend to stay quiet and see how things play out as more information comes into public, which is viewed as a negative by most because of the term silence is compliance. However, on the other hand, it is completely understandable because jumping to conclusions with very little information out there could bite an individual in the butt and could potentially affect their own likability if they are on the wrong side. Even if those that are close have more details than the average Joe, they understand that terminally online individuals are very fickle and are very quick to turn against you. Like with Brian losing Joe as a follower because the dog posted about defunding the police, which makes sense due to his profession. It emphasizes how it's a lose-lose situation when it comes to internet drama. People are going to get upset with you and criticize you no matter if you're right or wrong. A lot of the time, these situations bring out the ugliest in people, and you can assume the worst of what comes next for the individual in question, especially with the constant harassment against the individual and those that are related to them, both online and in the real world. When going up against anyone that has a high status in the community, those that have a larger platform can have the advantage. The person with the smaller voice tends to get casted aside quite quickly if the person is large enough where very few things can affect them. In turn, it could make an individual do something desperate.
Hey, Meba! Stewie, don't! Killing her is not gonna fix this. Brian, I'm not gonna kill her. I just want to talk to her.
While yes, the hint was a bit of a swerve, people do have the mindset of possibly targeting those high-status individuals in the real world, whether it be from stalking, doxing, or swatting them to make it harder for the person to live somewhat of a normal life. It's some of the most scummiest things to do, and it is uncalled for. But the amount of hatred one could have for a figure could be that strong that they are willing to go to these effects. At the same time, having the opportunity to truly talk to an individual is something people should strive for in settling a dispute. While talking IRL is a major pipe dream depending on how popular an individual is, I think trying to clear the air before bringing it to the public is the best thing because some messages or clips can easily look bad without the proper context. So a simple DM conversation can clear the air very quickly. Unfortunately, in present day, a lot of people jump to conclusions quickly and act on those initial thoughts. And this episode shows how we do need to work on getting more of an understanding of the situation. Social media can be a gateway for many things. Whether it's to enter a fandom of your favorite games, or you learn about a community that piques your interests. However, a site can lead you into a rabbit hole that can affect your way of thinking. Media influence can easily persuade you to lean towards a certain set of beliefs. It can lead you to a path that could be dangerous and force you to cause harm to others or yourself. That gets shown in the episode White Meg Can't Jump, where Stewie is the focus of the B-plot. Stewie spends his time on a site where a majority of people spend their time online, YouTube, a place filled with a variety of videos that can interest you. YouTube is the example when it comes to understanding the algorithms, understanding you as an individual. Because when you watch one video of a channel for a certain amount of time, they will be quick to suggest other videos that are related to it. You're interested in cartoon reviews? Well, here's Saberspark and AlphaJ. Watch a lot of Markiplier? Well, here's Jacksepticeye and Corey Kenshin. YouTube thrives on your recent watch history and make assumptions as to what videos you can possibly be interested in. The same can be true for conspiracy and political leaning content, which can lead you into that rabbit hole. The way they set this up for Stewie is perfect because, unlike previous jokes based on those who are way into politics, Stewie falls into that rabbit hole for issues that an infant would be interested in. Nap time. It's common for naps to be a talking point for kids that age, and they do paint a great picture of what you would see on a documentary on the site. A lot of long-term format follows this example that is shown here, from the imagery to the biased opinion being treated as fact. While it is true that parents try to get their kids to sleep to have some time to themselves, the big lie in this statement is that it is a sign of oppression, making it seem like these children are being tortured by making them go to bed. Kids usually have a large amount of energy that many adults don't really have anymore. So naps give them the opportunity to breathe. However, from a toddler's perspective, you are taking their time away to continue to have fun. This was considered the first step of falling into that rabbit hole, taking a fact and demonizing it in a way that causes those to reject the actual truth. When the person witnesses it firsthand, they feel more justified in how they feel based on that fact. That video led Stewie into more conspiracies to the point where he started watching videos that are very suspect in nature. When we see him again, his hair is all messed up and he's watching videos on how to get into the dark web. He even talks about how he's been lied to and has succumbed to vaccinated breast milk, which is a sentence I never thought I would be saying out loud. He has fully embraced the ideas Baby Truther 1776 has been feeding him, and he refuses to listen to Brian on why parents tell their children certain things that are not necessarily truthful. After a nice transition from Meg's game, Lois and Peter's excitement from watching Meg's fantastic performance made them very frisky. Yeah, this is Family Guy, alright. Before they get to town, Lois tells Stewie that the floor is lava. The way they set this up was incredible. Obviously, with Stewie's very curious mindset at the moment, he would want to follow them. But seeing him react to his feet touching the ground as Lois told Stewie about the lava floor was a very excellent touch in telling the story. Getting into what really makes this scene good is how we get to see his imagination flourish in avoiding the supposed lava-ridden room. It shows how much the modern Family Guy has improved in telling the stories from what I remembered the last time I watched. Really paying attention to the small details and playing around with the childlike nature that Stewie has developed. When Stewie recognizes that this was another false claim by Lois, he had to confront his deceiving parents.
Stewie, no!
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
This is a great example, witnessing someone who fell in too deep in the propaganda train as Stewie saw something that will change his entire perspective of his parents. Despite Brian warning him a multitude of times that there are reasons for his parents to tell him these fabrications, it's usually for his own good. There are some things children shouldn't see at a young age, and witnessing his parents getting their freak on is definitely on the list. This is what happens when you consume way too much of a certain ideology. You fall into a place where it leads you to a scarring experience, or worse, leads you into doing something that could harm a large number of people. For Stewie, it was the former, as his traumatic experience caused him to gain a multiple personality disorder. While it was solved quickly with Brian telling a lie about what Stewie witnessed, it helped calm him down and realize that a nap is the best thing for him. It's a strong lesson to know that there are some things that we are better off not knowing. Looking too deep in an ideology or idea could get us trapped into a bad spot mentally, physically, and emotionally. Anyone can slip into an extremist mindset if they aren't too careful, so you need to be aware of that, as well as remembering the people you know to aid you into not falling too deep. The internet is a place where anything can happen to an individual. You can meet plenty of people that could be lifelong friends there, but it also can become an addiction that can consume your everyday life. The internet plays a part in everyone's lives, but it's best to not allow it to run you as a person. Being terminally online is never a good thing, so focusing on your own hobbies and interests with friends is a great way to avoid being in that state. Just don't go out there trying to record yourself doing stupid shit.